Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
And very glad to have live in the studio with us this morning, Walt Mackney, who's running for Allegheny County Sheriff as a Republican. Walt Mackney, thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Brian, and thank you for inviting me here.
Well, Walt Mackney, let's go over your bio first. You have an extensive law enforcement background here in Steuben County. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been in law enforcement since 1979. I started out with the Town of Cuba Police Department, where I worked for 5 years. I was a patrolman and canine handler. 1984, I went to the New York State Police, went through the New York State Police Academy. When I first came out, my first station was Bath, and that's where I was assigned for about a year. Then I transferred over to the Allman Satellite in Allegheny County. While I was there, I was a field training officer. I was a counselor at the Basic School Academy. I was also a member of the State Police Training Advisory Board. I worked as a uniform trooper until about 1992. I was promoted to investigator in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, assigned to the Wellsville Barracks. I worked there doing major cases, everything from homicides to assaults to, unfortunately, a lot of cases involving Child Protective Services. And while I was there, I was also a fire and arson investigator, a hostage negotiator, a polygraph operator, in addition to my regular duties. And then in 2001, I was promoted to senior investigator in the state police and assigned to the Community Narcotics Enforcement Team, or CNET, and then further assigned as the commander of the Southern Tier Regional Drug Task Force out of Wlea, New York. And that was a multi-agency narcotics task force. We investigated narcotics crimes throughout the Southern Tier, Allegheny, Cattaraugus County, Wyoming, Lower Erie. We were all over the place. 2014, I retired from the state police, went back to work part-time for Cuba PD, where I just kind of help out with special events and assist them with narcotics investigations. And then I also came over here to Steuben County. I was hired by District Attorney Brooks Baker to help coordinate narcotics investigations in Steuben County, and that's what I've been doing since 2014.
Now, you do a lot of work in, you have a lot of work there in drug investigations in your background, Walt Mackney. Walt, you must have, in the last, I don't know how many years, a decade at least, see a lot of the big heroin, fentanyl problem that we hear so much about in the news.
Yes, well, heroin is only recently, by my standards, come back into the forefront in the narcotics problems. For the longest time, we were dealing mostly with powder cocaine, crack cocaine, and pills, prescription medication. And unfortunately, what happened was a lot of people got addicted to prescription medications, hydrocodone, oxycodone, OxyContin, and that addiction is very expensive. Out on the street, you're going to pay about $1 a milligram for one of those pills. So if you're using Oxy 20s, that's $20 a pill, Oxy 30s, $30 a pill, etc., all the way up. And if you're using 4 or 5 pills a day, that becomes an expensive habit. Well, along comes heroin again, which used to be considered kind of a dirty drug. It was that drug that was used in back alleys and in shooting galleries, and people kind of steered away from it. Well, it came back and it was cleaner, it was more potent, people started out snorting it, and you could go up to one of the cities, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, and you could pick up a bag of heroin for about $6. So $6 for a bag of heroin versus $20 or $30 for a pill, and the rush was on. The demand shot up, the supply increased, and it just keeps getting more and more potent. Now they started mixing it with fentanyl, which is a high-grade painkiller used in the treatment of cancer patients, and we're seeing a spike in overdoses and deaths due to this outbreak.
Yeah, it's quite the scourge. Some people call it a heroin fentanyl crisis in New York State. We're talking with Allegheny County Sheriff's candidate, Republican Walt Mackney. Walt, for the most part so far, I've been following the sheriff's race from the Wellsville Regional News page over there in Wellsville with Mike Baldwin. See, you've picked up a number of endorsements, some of them local.
Yes, I have endorsements from Chief Kyle Amadon over here in Canisteo, from Detective Sergeant Tom Ianni at the Hornell Police Department, from Chief Mark Chapman up in Wayland, as well as Chief Paul Griffith in Alfred PD, Chief Tim O'Grady at Wellsville PD, Chief Dustin Birch in Cuba PD, the PBAs for Cuba and Alfred, the New York State Troopers PBA, New York State Police Investigators Association, and a host of other former law enforcement officers, including former Sheriff Larry Scholes, who has never endorsed a political candidate since his retirement, and former First Deputy Superintendent of the New York State Police, Pedro Perez. I also received an endorsement from him. That, as well as numerous endorsements from other community leaders.
And I see on your Facebook page, Walt Mackney for Sheriff, that you picked up an endorsement from Judge McRae in Alfred.
Yep, Scotty McRae, a longtime friend. I worked at the Allman Satellite, as I said, for a number of years. I had numerous dealings with Judge McRae. Always a very impressive presence on the bench. And
in your endorsements, you listed so many. I see on your Facebook page talking about the endorsement from former Alfred Police Chief and Wellsville resident Scott. How do I say his last name?
Cicerillo.
That's right. Sorry about that.
Yep. Another endorsement from another law enforcement compatriot. And I have tremendous law enforcement support, as you can see from my endorsements and from my Facebook page. And I'm nothing but thankful for that. But I think that's based on my years of working over there and working in a cooperative spirit with all agencies. I've always believed that together we're stronger together than we are apart, and that you have to have that interagency cooperation if you want to get anything done. To look at these local police officers, be it the city of Hornell, town of Alfred, village of Wellsville, these are the people that know what's going on in their community. And they're the ones that you have to go to if you want to make any headway in any large-scale crime, and especially with narcotics. We all have little pieces of the puzzle, and until we get together, we can't see the big picture.
What made you want to run, Walt Mackney, for sheriff in Allegheny County?
Well, Brian, this is a process. I guess it's been kind of going on for a couple of years. I was approached by some people from the county, some county officials a couple of years ago, and they started talking to me about it, as well as some members from various law enforcement agencies who felt that there was a need for a change in leadership at the sheriff's office. I explored it. I looked at it. As you know, it's a huge commitment, and it's a big change in your lifestyle and in your responsibilities. So it's not something that I looked at lightly. It's not something that I looked at for some sort of self-aggrandizement or to propel myself into the public spotlight. But it's something that I seriously felt that there was a need for.
Scrolling down your Facebook page, lots of endorsements there. I see one of them are from Wellsville Police Chief Tim O'Grady, who used to be on the Allegheny County Legislature.
Yes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are restricted in what they can and can't say. As you know from your interviews with the judges running in Steuben County for court positions, and it's the same in law enforcement, and it's the same in county legislature. So when they do step up and come forward, that's to me, it's very humbling.
Walt Mackney, I'll ask a question that I asked the judge candidates, and we joked with Matt McCarthy and Chauncey Watches there in the different interviews about when you're interviewing a candidate who's running for judge, their hands are tied in how much they can say, how they'd rule, how they have ruled. Well, I ask them often when someone's running for a judge, what makes a good judge? So I'll ask you the same question to paraphrase it. What makes a good sheriff?
Well, I think you need to be a person that can look at the big picture. You've got to have short-range goals. You've got to have long-range goals. And you've also got to be able to work with the resources that you have at hand and really, you've got to be somebody that can take care of your people. I mean, the biggest resource at the sheriff's office in Allegheny County is the people. They are some of the best of the best. You know, they're hardworking. They are very much invested in their jobs. They are very professional, and you have to look out for them. You know, officer safety has always been a number one priority with me, making sure that everybody goes home in the same condition that they came to work in, and making sure that people have a safe work environment. And I think that's something you've got to look for. You've got to be cognizant of any issues that are happening within your own backyard. And again, as I stated before, getting along and working with every facet of law enforcement, whether it's municipal police, whether it's the state police, probation, the courts, the district attorney's office, child protective services, social services, federal agencies. You've got to maintain an open working relationship, and you've got to be honest with them. You can't lie to one in order to curry favor with another. You've got to treat everybody on a level playing field, and you've got to work towards common goals. I think you also have to have a lot of patience. There are people that don't understand the job. There are people that don't understand you. And I think you have to have the patience to be able to sit down with them and explain to them. And, you know, you may agree to disagree at the end of the day, but that's all part of the job.
We're going to take a break talking to Allegheny County Sheriff's candidate Republican Walt Mackney. Stay with us here on the Newsmaker Show.
McCourt's Auto Collision on State Route 36 just south of Castillo is a full-service collision shop offering not just collision work, but also paint work. McCourt's has a 24-foot frame straightener with 3-dimensional measurement. McCourt's accepts all insurance companies and can work with you on any deductible you may have. At McCourt's, they work for your interest and your benefit, not the insurance companies. All work is fully warranted and they offer a free loaner car. McCourt's Auto Collision, State Route 36 in Castillo, where customer satisfaction is always number one. Phone 607-698-9900.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Caron. Hey, how's it look today, Rob?
Hey, it looks kind of wet, Brian. We've got some rain in the forecast, courtesy of what at one time was Tropical Storm Gordon. Now, it's not as close circulation anymore, but the moisture associated with Gordon, that's had the tendency to work its way up the East Coast, and it's what's pushing through the region this morning. National Weather Service has the region under a flood watch through 8 tonight. We'll be looking at rain heavy at times today. It looks like it'll kind of become more scattered showers this afternoon as some of the better moisture heads on up into parts of Quebec and Ontario. Temperatures, they're going to remain cool. We're only going to be about 60 or 65. We certainly had some very cool air push into the region as we went through the weekend. Now, weather-wise, for tonight, we'll see clouds. Scattered showers are a possibility. Nighttime lows are going to be about 55 to 60. Tomorrow, we're mostly cloudy with the chance of a shower or two. I think temperatures are going to have the tendency to be a little warmer tomorrow. Humidity is going to be up as well. We'll be looking at highs tomorrow, probably between about 70 and 75. The outlook for tomorrow night, mostly cloudy. Lows will drop down to about 60. Now, during the day on Wednesday, we're partly to mostly cloudy, 70 to 75. Then we turn sunny and warmer as we head through Thursday and Friday. Brian, sunrise this morning was at 6:46. The sun will set this evening at 7:29.
We're on live in the studio today with Walt Mackney, the Republican candidate for sheriff. I should say he's running against Sheriff Rick Whitney in the primary coming up this Thursday. Walt, if you could tell us, what are the big issues facing the Sheriff's Department in Allegheny County in 2018?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is the issue that we started talking about, which is narcotics and the illegal drug trade. And I think that's a crisis that's facing our entire nation, and it's everywhere. It's in Steuben County, obviously. It's in Allegheny County. You can't get away from it. And you've got to vigorously work to attack that. And it's a multi-layered kind of operation that you're looking at, because it's not just law enforcement, but you're dealing with the courts, you're dealing with rehabilitation, you're dealing with counseling, you're dealing with ways to try and reduce the demand. But on the enforcement side, currently the current administration over there have 2 officers working narcotics, to the best of my knowledge, and they're working unsupported. There is, as you know, no active road patrol in Allegheny County, making it very difficult for them to do their job. They're not getting support. They're not working with local agencies, and they used to be part of the Southern Tier Regional Drug Task Force, and the sheriff before this one pulled him out, and this sheriff promised to put him back in, and in 8 years he hasn't done that. So I think, we need to look at ways to put them back in where they have support, where they have people that have the other pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, and so they can start working to actively curtail some of this drug activity that's plaguing everyone.
Now, from what I understand from the about the Allegheny County Sheriff's Department, they pretty much are related to jail duties, and they run the jail at the Allegheny County Sheriff's Department, and for the most part, the law enforcement situations are handled by the local police departments in Bolivar and Wellsville and Alfred, etc., and also the state police. Is that correct?
That's correct, Brian. The sheriff's office currently has no active road patrol. They are responsible for maintaining the jail and serving civil process. They also provide court security at the county buildings. But they do supplement other agencies for various events. You'll see them at Hot Dog Days in Alfred. You'll see them at the 4th of July in Andover. You'll see them at a variety of other places. They also participate in sobriety checkpoints, DWI patrols. But as far as having a road patrol per se, that doesn't exist.
Is this something you'd like to see change?
Well, again, the problem is that we live in a depressed economy, and unfortunately we live in a depressed county. And if you want to have a road patrol, you have to pay for it somehow. So the burden falls upon the taxpayers to come up with that money to pay for a road patrol. And if at some point the taxpayers in Allegheny County feel a need for a road patrol, then they will say so, and if I'm sheriff at that time, I will certainly do my best to provide one. In the meantime, you do have the New York State Police, who are providing the primary law enforcement response service throughout the county, and they're doing a great job. And so, again, duplication of services has always become a problem. We're talking more about consolidating services. So again, as I said, until the people of Allegheny County state their need for one, I don't see any reason to have one.
Talking again with Allegheny County Republican Sheriff's candidate Walt Mackney. The primary is coming up this week. Can you tell us how the campaign has been going, Walt? You travel, I'm guessing, all around the county, and you live somewhere in Allegheny County, correct?
That is correct. I live in Andover. I think the campaign is going very well. I've talked to a lot of people all throughout the county at various events and functions. I'm getting very good feedback, a lot of support. A lot of people feel it's time for a change, and so do I. So I think we're going to be moving ahead come Thursday.
Allegheny County Sheriff's candidate Walt Mackney, down to the last 2 or 3 minutes, wondering, would you like to close out with anything maybe that I did not bring up, or anything that you'd like to say to the listeners?
Well, again, there's always additional issues that we could talk about besides the narcotics problem. School safety is always big on my mind and big on everybody's mind. I think that it's up to the sheriff's office to try and promote that to the best of his ability, to utilize every avenue to try and make something like that happen.
If I could stop you there, they have a lot of resource officers in Steuben County in the schools, as you know, working with the Steuben County DA's office. What's that like in Allegheny County?
Well, Allegheny County doesn't have anywhere near what Steuben County does, and I have to commend Sheriff Allard for his hard work and diligence, as well as the various police chiefs in Steuben County who have worked very hard to make sure that there are school resource officers in their schools. And you can cite as an example Hornell, Canastillo, Addison, Corning, all these various municipalities that have provided school resource officers, and I hope I'm not leaving any out. And I know that the sheriff's office is in multiple school districts and helping to provide school resource officers for those areas, and they've been doing it for about 5 years now, I think, and it's working great. Allegheny County, unfortunately, now with a few exceptions, I know Cuba Rushford has a school resource officer provided by the police department. Wellsville Police Department just provided a school resource officer for their school system. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other place that has it.
Okay, and was there, I kind of interrupted you in your closing statements there. Was there anything else you wanted to say there, Walt Mackney?
Well, again, I think another thing is being financially accountable to the people of Allegheny County to make sure that money is not being spent that doesn't need to be spent. I think that there are some overtime costs that need to be addressed in the current sheriff's administration, administrative overtime costs that have averaged over $145,000 a year since my opponent took office. Overtime in the jail that last year was over $1.3 million paid out. And not that you're ever going to eliminate overtime in any law enforcement entity or agency. That's kind of a necessary evil. But I think you have to look at every avenue you can to try and minimize that. I mean, that's your responsibility as an agency head. That's your responsibility to the people, the constituents that elect you, is to try and save them money wherever you can.
Allegheny County Republican candidate for sheriff, Walt Mackney. He'll be facing off Allegheny County Sheriff Rick Whitney on primary day this Thursday. Walt Mackney, I want to thank you very much for coming in.
Brian, thank you so much for having me, and I would like to encourage all the voters in Allegheny County to come out and vote on primary day, Thursday, September 13th. My understanding is that the polls open at noon and close at 9. And I'd like to thank everybody who's been out there supporting me so far, and I want to thank them for their continued support.
Thank you very much, Walt.
Thank you, Brian.